It's time for another game of +1, -2 Urban Cycling Edition, this time Canada versus Brazil. Hey everyone, I'm Tom and this is Shifter, a channel about urban cycling, bike commuting, and the ways we get around our cities. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing or becoming a Shifter member for bonus content. There are links in the video description. So today's video is another edition of a game I came up with as a way of getting a little bit of insight into the bike infrastructure and cultures of other cities and do what the internet was invented to do, which is weigh judgment on things without much information. So I've played this game a couple of times, once with Jason from Not Just Bikes, another with my friend Pekka from Oulu in Finland, and lots of other people have done their own. I've put a playlist together if you want to check them out. And if you've done one, don't be shy, send it my way. I'll put it in that playlist as well. Today's version is with Patty Wiens, who's the bicycle mayor of Winnipeg, but we're not doing it in Winnipeg. Patty mentioned to me that she was planning a trip to her birth country of Brazil, and when we were chatting about her visit to Sao Paulo, we thought, hey, let's do a +1, -2. It's a perfect opportunity. So here's how the game works. Both of us go on a similar bike ride, in this case where it's a 6 or 7 kilometer route that ends at an art gallery. We record the visits and then we swap the video files with each other. Then we judge the bike friendliness of both rides on this scorecard, +1 for every moment that the infrastructure is good and you feel safe and welcome, -2 for every time you feel like you're let down by the infrastructure or you feel like you're in danger. Then we tally it up and we declare a winner. Now we both make our own videos, but we have not seen each other's videos. I have no idea what she's going to say about her ride or my ride and vice versa. Part of the fun of this is that it's, quasi-scientific, but mostly subjective. So it's really cool to get different perspectives on this. Okay, you got it? Let's get started. Okay, here we go. We are in Sao Paulo with Patty via Winnipeg. And, whoa, what is this right off the bat? Look at this, a beautiful bike storage facility, I guess that's what this is. Looks safe and attractive. This is the kind of stuff that makes me want to ride a bike. +1 right off the bat. That looks very impressive. So I was going to give a -2 for forcing Patty onto the sidewalk here, just because she didn't look like she was feeling safe. But then I saw this sign and I just paused the video because I know exactly 0 words in Portuguese and I Google translated it. And I think it says something like for more cyclists in the city. So that container was maybe like some bike storage or something like that. Is this like some kind of hub of cycling? Oh, I think I know what's going on. This seems to be like another bike locking location right here. So I'm guessing that Patty rode this way to so that we can see it. I think she's showing it off. So perhaps this is like a shared pedestrian and cyclist space. So let's give it a +1 for accommodating bikes in unique ways. So, you'll have to go over to Patty's video to see the full context of this stuff. So I hope I'm not totally wrong and making a fool of myself, but that does seem like a pretty good one. Okay, where are we going here? Now this looks like a lot of traffic with not a lot of space for bikes. Let's see where this ends up. Oh, here we go. Okay, a painted bike lane. Sure, let's give that a +1. Okay, here we go. Look at this. What is this, a center lane bike lane? Wow, you don't see many of these around. I mean, look at this. It's actually pretty nice. It looks like it's been built with some nice tree coverage, or maybe this was just like a really wide boulevard and then planners thought they'd squeeze a bike lane in the middle of it. Yeah, you don't see a lot of these around. This is really interesting. Some grass, some trees, and a pretty nice looking bike lane. Oh, look at this. They even split to go around the trees. Huh, really interesting. I mean, I've only ridden on a few of these in my time because they're so rare. And to be honest, I never liked them for a couple of reasons. One is that they tend to just squeeze you between hostile car routes, which is kind of what's happening here. Those are pretty busy roads. But with the grass and the trees, it makes it a bit more tolerable. And then, oh, look at this intersection. So that's the other reason I haven't loved these kind of bike lanes in the past is because, when you have to cross traffic or getting on and off the bike lane, it can be pretty sketchy. So, it's a really tricky thing to manage. It's a lot of car traffic to navigate around just to get onto the bike lane. So let's give this a +1 for the separated bike lane and another +1 for the fact that it's built with trees and greenery. But I'm holding out judgment on the wider score here just to see. I want to see some approaches on and off of this because that's where center bike lanes really shine or fall. Oh yeah, here we go. See, this is what I was talking about. So this the way you access this center lane bike lane is you have to cross, what is that, 4 or 5 lanes of traffic to get here. And so, there's a painted stripe to get here, but like that's a big thing to get across, right? Like just getting every time you get on and off, you have to cross 4 lanes. That's a tough one. So I'm actually going to give that a -2 because it's not a perfect scenario. Oh, Brazil. Was that a share? Are we on a sharo right now? A shared right of way? Oh my gosh. I thought those were a fallacy only North Americans had. -2 for a sharo. Those are worse than bike lanes in some cases because they make people think they're bike lanes and they're not. So it creates dangerous situations. But look at this. It led to a actual bike lane. I think this is actually a bike lane. What is going on here? Look at that barrier. There's like these concrete little tablets. I don't know, like mini bollards. What do you call those? Rumble strips. They look, I'm gonna say they look both dangerous to ride a bike on and do nothing to protect cyclists from cars. -2 for those weird rumble strip things. Okay, it looks like the planners in the city are trying to piece together a bike route through here by having it sort of skirt the seams of the car infrastructure, like from a sidewalk to a parking lane, back onto the sidewalk. I mean, I never know how to feel about these things. They're like it's better than nothing, of course, but it always feels like they're doing so much work just to avoid encroaching on the car space. I mean, one of the best things about a bike lanes is that it can reduce car dependency. That's part of the point here. But if you're just squeezing it around, I don't know. So I'm giving it a +1 for the existence of a continuous route, but a -2 for making that route sort of second class. Oh, look at this. Car drivers are the same everywhere, blocking the bike lane. There you go. -2 for ignorant drivers who are entitled to every space that's free on in the city. Oh, look at this person. Now they're just, oh, look, no one cares. Look, there's other people in the city. Oh, Patty. Of course, Patty's not going to let that one go. She +1 for Patty for taking the time out of her day to conscientiously educate that motorist on the proper rights of citizens on the road and shared space. Good job, Patty. All right. I like that this is a continuous bike lane. Like there's no gaps in the network. So +1 for that. And it could be kind of difficult to judge with lens distortion because the lens you're using on your camera can really impact these things. But this looks pretty narrow. I mean, look at that big pickup truck in the car lane. There's not much space left. So -2 for narrowness. Oh, did you catch that there on the left? There's a bike. Oh, another one here on the right too. A bike box at that intersection, meaning cyclists are permitted to squeeze to the front of the line and get a jump on traffic. These actually can really grade. It should probably be painted to make it more prominent. And they work even better when they're coordinated with the traffic lights so that the cyclists are given a couple of seconds to clear the intersection before motorists can go through. So I don't know if that's the case here. I didn't quite catch that, but I'm going to give it a +1 just for its existence because I find these just like a nice little thing that can give cyclists a little bit of a boost, a little bit of a nudge that that they belong here, and a little bit of an advantage in a sea of cars. Oh no, look at this. Look at this merge lane. Is that what they call it? A merge lane right onto the bike lane. That looks super sketchy. This should definitely be a more controlled intersection to help keep cyclists safe. -2. And Patty, I'm glad you're still alive after that. Oh, did you catch that? See that person on the sidewalk? I think she's waving at Patty and giving her an encouraging word because she must be getting to the top of this big hill. So a +1 for positive reinforcement from Brazilian passersby. Nice to see. Okay, now this is interesting, right? Look at this, a nice row of planters and trees separating pedestrians from the road. Isn't that a nice way of making pedestrian space feel better? Now, looks like they squeezed a bike lane to the left of that. Now, just imagine if they actually spent a little more money, did a little more work, and actually swapped the locations of that, putting the bike lane on the other side so that the nice row of plants separates the cyclists and the pedestrians from the moving motor vehicles. That would be a great thing. Sadly, I'll keep it out. I'll give it a +1 for its existence. To protect pedestrians, that's always important, but it could be much better with just a little more work. Oh, okay. Look at this. Here comes some kind of transition. I don't know what's happening here, but it looks like we're headed to crossing the lanes here. Oh, maybe this is another one of those center like bike lanes. Again, like these transitions are tough. Look at that, making like a left-hand turn right across rows of traffic. Yeah, sorry, I'm giving a -2 for that one. Oh, look at this. They're using the bike lane to store construction material. Where's the bike detour? Why can't they store that stuff on the road? Oh, actually, they did take a little bit of space there. But, look at that. Look how much space the cyclists are giving up here. I'm taking two away. Okay, here's another one of those transition. I mean, this one feels a little more thoughtful. I mean, at least there's some infrastructure. Like on the other side, you see there's a little bit of an island there that cyclist is in right now. So there's a little bit of thought that's going into how to make pedestrians. Oh, that's just part of the center bike lane here. Well, it's a slight improvement over some of those other transitions onto these center bike lanes, so I'll give that a +1. Yeah, so apparently this is a pretty famous bike lane in Sao Paulo. It looks like it's pretty well built. I mean, it's got some paint, it's got some protection. It's not great, but it's not terrible. I'm going to give +1 for effort. E for effort. I feel like I'm being very generous here, aren't I? But again, what's with all these obstacles in the middle of the bike route? Like, look at the light posts and the signage. It's like an obstacle course here. If you're watching this channel, you probably have bike skills that you can avoid this stuff no problem. But if you're like a new cyclist or, are a little nervous around things like this, like if your bike skills are not that good, or if you had a kid with you, would you let your kid ride here? All those obstacles are earning a -2 from me. Okay, I think we're coming close to that destination. That building on the left is the art gallery. Oh, it looks like they've been redirected to bike parking somewhere else. But then to get on the street, they couldn't even take the bike lane to get here. They had to go on the street. Oh, and look at that. That's a little sketch. He's got to go the wrong way. Oh, no, that is not a great accommodation. So where's the bike parking? -2. Okay, indoor parking, which means it's probably more secure than if it was outside, but definitely not convenient to get to. Look at this. Bikes are definitely an afterthought in this scenario. Oh, down the ramp. I hate these riding in these things. They're always so slippery. And there's somebody to unlock the gate. I mean, this is not convenient, but look at this guy. He's going there. Okay, that's the bike lockup. All right. It's secure. It looks like there's someone's maybe monitoring it a little bit, so that's not great, but it's definitely so inconvenient. I think I'm going to call this a wash. No points awarded, no points given, but we've arrived at our destination and everybody is alive. Great work, Patty. There you go. That's Sao Paulo, Brazil. Now it's time for Calgary, Canada. Okay, off we go. Now we're starting this +1, -2 at the destination that I ended the first one I ever did, a shopping mall, the biggest shopping mall in Calgary. And so let's get started. And there's something interesting about shopping mall parking lots in North America, and that there really are the only places where pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists interact in a safe way. Like car drivers go really slow. There's an expectation that people will be walking and maybe riding through there. And so it actually feels like a shared space. The irony of all that is like it's a shared space in an area that's sole intention is the storage of privately owned automobiles. So it's weird. I just wish we had that feeling of shared space in other places. Okay, here we go off onto the street. Oh, look at that giant pile of frozen sand there. So I acknowledge this is not the prettiest time of the year in Calgary. This is a warm snap in the middle of winter in early March. And there's lots of gravel all over the place. I was going to take -2 away for not clearing the streets, but honestly, this was just a temporary reprieve from winter. It snowed literally 24 hours after this. And so I don't think it's realistic to be plowing the street or to street sweeping between bouts of plowing. So they just have to just wait till the end of the season and then do it. So that's fine. Now, look at this. I don't know if you can see that, but there is a bike signal light in this intersection. So +1 for that bike light signal. But it's such a confusing intersection. I don't actually know why it exists. That right turning lane was not a safe place for a car to be or for a cyclist to be. And the left lane didn't seem to have any accommodations for bike anyway. So what's the point of that signal? I don't quite get it. So a +1 for it existing, a -2 for it being weird and confusing. Yeah, I know. I missed a stop sign. I swear I usually stop at stop signs, but I missed that one. Oh, wait. Did you see that blue sign there on the right side of the road that had a bike on it? Those are called bikeways here. So I'm going to give a +1 for this being a designated bikeway. However, the bikeway kind of sucks. Now, if you've been on a bikeway in a residential neighborhood in other cities, you know that they could be amazing. Like if they use modal filters to redirect cars off this route, if they remove the stop signs so that cyclists can flow through, if they put traffic calming or divert cars where, or even lower the speed limit, at the very least, lower the speed limit so it's a bike route, that would be great. But none of that applies here. It's just a sign. And so -2 for it being a crappy bikeway. Ah, yes. Now we're talking. Look at this. We're on a multi-use pathway. This is the best part of cycling in Calgary. We have a really great, actually, multi-use pathway network. This one's along the river. It's very pretty. So +1 for having a robust network of off-street pathways. They definitely make my life better. And look at this pathway. Look what pathways enable. Look at this kid riding independently. That's what safe right bike routes do. So +1 for enabling better childhoods. Oh, here's some ice because the runoff froze overnight and it's really slippery. -2, not just for me, but for those pedestrians too. They could have slipped on that. That ice was pretty precarious. Oh, and look at this, +1 for having good recreational routes for people with mobility issues. Now, call me petty, but I'm going to say -2 because these pathways are not wide enough. Did you see that poor couple? They couldn't even walk side by side when I passed them. On these popular routes especially, we need wider routes. You should at least be able to keep walking beside somebody and not have to feel like you're going to get run over by the cyclist coming up behind you. Oh, look at that. +1 for the, I don't want to say rare, but somewhat rare, conscientious dog owners who don't feel their dogs have an inherent right to the whole pathway, roaming all over it. That guy pulled his dog in close, as he should do. So thanks, man. Okay, and here's a spot that's so weird. The pathway dumps me out onto a residential road, and there's no bike accommodation on this road at all, which annoys me. But it is, on the other hand, a very quiet street with very little car traffic. So it's not the end of the world. I'm going to call this a wash. No points added or no points taken away. Oh, and here's the pedestrian bridge I cross all the time. I should say pedestrian cyclist bridge. And it's nice. So +1 for a nice bridge because you deserve nice things even if you're not in a car. Okay, there's something coming up here that I'm taking two away right now. I want to tell you about it because just up ahead, I could turn left because about 3 blocks in that direction is a great separated bike lane. But the 3 blocks to get there is really a gap in the bike network. And the street is narrow, it's busy, and I've had too many close calls with entitled car drivers that I do not feel safe navigating those 3 blocks to get to the route. So I'm going to go in a different route that you'll see in a moment, but -2 for like this gap in the network that just is like ruins the opportunity. Oh, and then, oh, this part. Yes, there's also a -2 on this one for a construction detour that doesn't exist. So the construction detour requires me to cross the street and then walk my bike on the sidewalk on the adjacent street and then cross back at the other end of this. That's terrible. A -2 for that. Not only is it inconvenient, but I should point out too that there is good research out of the University of British Columbia that found that construction zones are one of the higher points of injuries for cyclists in collisions with cars. So it's not just me complaining. It can be dangerous. We need better bike routes for around or bike detours around constructions. And now look, it's forced me onto the road to avoid that silly detour. And now because I'm on the road, I've missed that nice pathway to the right of me. And so it's just not good all around. I mean, I try to minimize my annoyance on car drivers by taking bike routes everywhere, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. Okay, but look at this, +1 for this great separated bike route. Now, this is a maybe not the best bike lane. It's a little bit narrow, but it has a concrete barrier between me and the cyclists. And most importantly, it closes that 3 block gap that I mentioned earlier. It goes all the way to another, it goes from a pathway all the way to another bikeway that's separated. So it completes the route. And so I'm really grateful for this. So yeah, definitely +1 for that. Even if I have to go +1, even if I have to go a couple of routes out of my way just to access it. Okay, look at this car here. Look at the way it's encroaching in on the intersection, even though there's like 2 meters of space to the left of them. So what do you think? Is this because the driver wants to turn right but doesn't understand that this is a bike lane? Or is it the driver has such terrible spatial awareness that they don't know they're encroaching in the bike lane and therefore are bad drivers and should probably be on the bus instead? Or is it C, that maybe the driver thinks they're entitled to all the space at all times and they don't care? So I don't know. I'm an optimistic guy by nature, so I'm going to say 1A. The first thing I said, the driver doesn't want to turn right, or the driver wants to turn right, but they don't understand the rules of a bike lane. Well, I'm going to tell myself that's the real answer. Okay, look at this. So the bike lane actually carries through the intersection and it joins with another bike lane. So I'm going to give this a +1 just because so often planners just give up on intersections and don't do anything. So that's a very minimal +1. But yes, for carrying a bike lane through an intersection, +1. I mean, this bike lane is nice, right? Look at that. +1. And if you're wondering, this video was shot on a Sunday morning at the start of March, so it's pretty quiet today. But isn't that a nice bike lane? See? What's so hard about that? Oh, I had to say something about the nice bike lane, didn't I? Look at this, construction. What did I just finish saying about construction detours? Now, this one annoyed me even more because it forces me onto the sidewalk and makes me walk. That's even the most infuriating thing because also look again. This bike lane is totally closed for construction, but look at the encroachment on the car lanes. Almost nothing there, right? The driver sacrificed nothing, while I have to give up my entire lane. -2 for that one. Okay, okay, maybe I should take that back. They've reduced the car lanes here, so at least we're sharing the burden between car drivers and cyclists and pedestrians. But they're also making the cyclists cross or the pedestrians cross the street here. But you know what? I'm just going to carry on. These guys didn't seem to care. So I just saved myself from crossing the street needlessly and just carried on through. But you should know I furrowed my brow in their direction to show my displeasure. Not that those guys plan the detours, but it made me feel better. Okay, time for a change. I'm turning off of that nice separated cycle track, which we call them cycle tracks, or those separated bike lanes. And what have I turned into? A painted bike lane, filled with debris and gravel. -2 for that one. How disappointing. Oh, but here, like my destination is here, just on the left, but there's no accommodation for the bike lane to get in there. So I have to walk across in a crosswalk that's intended for pedestrians. So -2 for that. Okay, while we wait for this train, I want to point out that the starting and end points for this journey are both located quite near train stations, which may make you wonder why I didn't just take the train for this kind of trip. Well, according to Google Maps, making this trip by train takes one transfer plus 15 minutes of walking. It's for a 40-minute trip, whereas Google Maps said it will take me on a bike 29 minutes. So now you see why I ride a bike everywhere. All right, here we are at our destination at the art gallery. And the big question remaining is, and is there anywhere to park your bike? That's the final question of the journey today. It's Sunday morning, so the gallery's not open yet. That's why there's no people around, but let's take a look. Oh, look at that. Bike racks right out the front door. +1 for that. Great job. And I made it alive. Okay, there you go. So what do you think? So I was really excited about this opportunity because most of my knowledge about cycling in cities comes from North America and Europe, and I've been really keen to sort of break free of this Eurocentric view of cities and urban cycling. And it didn't disappoint, right? There's some really interesting stuff going on there. Those center bike lanes, like, what do you think? I mean, it struck me as one of those projects where there's been a recognition of the need for better bike infrastructure, but then the city planners were maybe unwilling to take any space away from cars and sort of trying to squeeze that lane into any place they can, which ended up being those center boulevards. So they're not great, but also they get you where you need to go, and they seem to be fairly well used. So I don't know, I'd love to hear what you think, and I'd love to get some more context from Patty. So I'm really looking forward to going over right now and watching her video and seeing what she has to say about this whole thing. And this was the first time that Calgary ever came out on top of my scoring in this. What do you think? Was I too generous or too harsh on either city? You know, this was a reminder for me. I tend to dump on Calgary a little bit, but it was a reminder that we have a pretty good, like, fundamental bike network here with a great multi-use pathway network and the start of a good on-street bike network. So it's just those gaps are killers. If we could just fill some of those gaps, I think it would make a huge difference. Anyway, let me know what you think. Make sure you go check out Patty's video and let me know what you think of this style of video. They're pretty fun. I like doing them, but let me know if you like them as well, and maybe I can do more. Big thanks to Patty. She does great work over there in Winnipeg. Really grateful for her and for her participation here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.